Continuing to stay inward, let us listen to these words by Paramhans Yogananda ji from Whispers from Eternity. These are called Come to Me, O Christ, as the Divine Shepherd of Souls. O Christ, thou rarest flower of hearts, thou didst sail the storm-tossed lake of prejudiced minds. Its evil-scented, gloomy thought waves lashed thy lily-tender soul. They crucified thee with their evil. Yet didst thou shed on them the aroma of goodness and forgiveness, and help them to be purified by remorse, to make them attractively sweet-scented with thine all-loving soul flower. O thou great lover of all error-torn brothers, an unseen monument of the mightiest miracle of love was established in every heart when the magic of thy voice uttered, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Thou hast healed the cataract of hatred. We have now grown to see thy truth. Love thine enemies as thyself, for they are thy brothers, though sick and sleeping. Thou hast taught us not to increase their fevered blows of hatred with the bludgeons of revenge. Thine undying sympathy has inspired us to heal our brothers, suffering in their delirium of anger, with the soothing salve of divine forgiveness. Thy crucifixion reminds us of the daily crucifixion of our own fortitude by trials, of our wisdom by ignorance, of our self-control by the scathing touch of temptation, and of our love by misunderstanding. Thy test on the cross proved the victory of divine wisdom over ignorance, of thy divine soul over flesh, of thy happiness over pain, and of thy love over hatred. So are we heartened to bear our own crosses bravely and with faith. Teach us, when we are crucified by harshness, to pour out only sweetness, to bear with calmness the assaults of worry, and to give understanding unceasingly to those who unjustly hate us. O Shepherd of souls, wandering hearts are seeking of themselves the one fold of divine devotion. We have heard the ever-calling music of thy infinite kindness. Our one desire is to find our home in thee, to receive the cosmic Father with the joyous open eyes of wisdom, and to know that all of us are sons of our own one God. Teach us to conquer the Satan of dividing selfishness, which prevents the gathering of all our brother souls into the one fold of spirit. Calling to one another by the watchword, "Love him who loves you, and love all who love you not," let us rally beneath the canopy of the universal oneness of the Christ. Amen. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I would like to now invite Amit to lead our choir into, I believe, 2 songs. These are songs by Swamiji? Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Amit, everybody in the choir. Those are beautiful words, and Swami would, so many times say, he said, "That's not my music. I have received it." He said, "But this is God's music." He used to call it philosophy in song. Actually, the first piece, how Swamiji got the first piece of music, is also very interesting. In this world of duality, we are so overwhelmed sometimes by the problems, and it's almost like the problem has to start, and it is actually a downward spiral. Kriyananda ji said many yoga teachers have translated the word the word vritti as a wave. And Swami said, yes, a wave causes ups and downs, but he says that's not so much of a problem. He said, what is a vritti? He said, it's a whirlpool. It doesn't just take you down, it takes you down, 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 all the way down until you realize this is really not working out. And fortunately, and as we know, if when we meditate, we come up the spine. Today I was watching a video of a religious group, another religion, and they were saying, why do we sway sometimes when we pray? And they gave some explanations, but actually the real reason is you may sway sideways, front and back. Why? Because when we start praying on God, on the light, on the words of a master, it's the Kundalini energy that rises up the spine. And when that rises, it rises, as it's described as a serpent in many traditions, like a coiled energy at the base of the spine. And when it rises, it comes up in a spiral way, and that leads to a little movement. And master said that movement will come, but he said, then center yourself, because again, it's a detail, but he said that movement is happening in two energy channels of the spine, the Ida and Pingala. And yes, energy rising anywhere is good, but master said where you really want the energy to rise even within the spine is in the Sushumna, and when it rises there, he said that brings a deep, not a rigid, but a deep stability and a huge uprising current. So Swami, when he was talking about this tradition of, now, what was my initial thought? Yes, how he received. Thank you, Bhavni. Bhavni knows how I go left, 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 like a vritti, down, down, down. He's like, now where did I start? How did I reach bottom of the story? That how did it Swami receive his music? I was saying in this world of duality, like crucifixion, as Amit was saying, was on Friday, and today we are celebrating, and it was the evening time when Christ appeared to his disciples on Easter Day, that, that piece of music that Swami got. How did he get that? Well, he had to make it for a meeting somewhere, and as he was going, a huge storm broke out, and it's raining, and with all the windshield wipers running, he knew he was getting late. And Swami started feeling bad about it, and he said, what is this happening, and why, how can I make this happen in a nice way? And he realized that he was getting agitated in the process. Think of traffic, think of, a deadline like that. And Swami said, wait a minute. I can't control this storm outside, but what I can control is my inner storm, you might say, inner feelings. And he calmed himself. And the moment he did that, this first piece of music came to him. I have a love far away. Yeah, and so then Swami would say that again and again when he found some challenge came. And today on one level we are discussing that here we are talking about crucifixion, or as that reading was saying, the daily cross of our lives. And Christ didn't shy away. He said, bear your cross with me. One of my favorite readings is from the Saint Thomas à Kempis. Master said he wrote a book. It's the second most selling book after the Bible in Christianity. It's called The Imitation of Christ. And Master says that book is not just the imitation of Christ, it is Christ. And Thomas à Kempis, this great saint, would have visions of Christ, much like St. Francis of Assisi. And in those conversations which are recorded in the book, Christ would guide him. And Christ said to him at one point, my son, there are many who want to sup with me, have a meal with me. There are many who want to come to my kingdom, but there are very few who want to bear the cross with me. And you read and the title of that chapter is The Few Who Want to Bear the Cross of Christ. And you're like, should I read this chapter? Maybe it's not for me. And it is for everybody. And yes, it may not be the cross outside, even though Swami didn't shy away from that. You look at Amit was talking about the disciples of Christ. 10 out of 12 of them, and actually 11 you may say, if you count Paul, who never met Christ but was considered as the 13th apostle. He came right at the time of Christ's life as it was ending. they met with an unnatural death on one level, as we may say, but a deeply spiritual one, because they were united in Christ's blessings. And much like they say, all of Krishna's soldiers were like Krishna, that Christ met with that end, and his disciples were challenged on one level, you may say. That generation was challenged to show in different parts of the world, including India. In Chennai was Saint Thomas was martyred, that how would you behave in the midst of these extreme tests and challenges. So what does, you might say, what is the message for us? Now, I requested in the beginning, those of you who came on time, you saw we were arranging for the picture of Master. That's called The Last Smile. And I'll read you a letter Kriyananda ji wrote on Easter 11 years ago. And in that letter, Swami says, if you want liberation in this life, if you want to find God, he said, I strongly suggest that you meditate on the eyes of the Master in that picture, The Last Smile. And I'll read that letter. But what is important for us is when Swami wrote that letter and he shared that, I'll read it as I said, Swami said the important thing to understand is that if Master accomplished that level of freedom, if Christ accomplished it, we too can. Now remember, this letter was written a few weeks before Swami's own passing. Well, now looking back, we can ask the question, how was his own passing? And how was that day? What was the day like when he gave that sermon on Easter Day? It's on YouTube, you can go and watch it. What was the evening like? Swami's last public words were, I have to leave now, but you all continue. Very prophetic, absolutely prophetic, very interesting, that how there is this very slight little curtain between, you might say, our world, our matter reality, and God's will, God's plan. And every now and then, it's almost like there's no separation. And you're like, oh, that was, it was so palpable, it was so clear. I was sharing this morning, I was closing, a class on death and dying, which we've been doing. And over there, I thought it will be inspiring for some people to hear the account of Kriyananda ji's passing. And there was a couple, very good friends of ours, founding members of our community in Ananda, Assisi in Italy. And I was blessed when Swami passed away that I got the visa within a day through a friend, and I was able to go and pay my last respects on behalf of everybody, but 5 of us went from here. And this lady devotee told me, her name was Graziella, she told me this story. She said, I met Swamiji 5 days before his passing. And he was actually hinting for over 30 years. Believe it or not, he had said so much, gone through so much, that when he did pass away, there was certainly a joy because he wanted to be one with God, and the Master had promised him, you will find God at the end of your life. This is the final lifetime. But on the other hand, people said there was a little bit of a shock because he had come out of almost dying. Doctors would give up on him, and there he was back on stage again and again. I saw him on a wheelchair. I saw him coming out of emergency onto the stage at Symbiosis and out of dialysis units. And you're like, okay, he comes from the ICU and launches a new book, writes a new book, gives a lecture, travels the world and does this kind of interesting outreach. And Swami, at that time, he wrote that letter, and the devotee couple met him. And they had primarily met for a reason. The lady wanted a spiritual name. Swami, she didn't mention it, however, to him. So when they met Swamiji, Swamiji started talking about the founding years. He thanked them. They came early on. They helped the work, their family. Swami invited other leaders at that time. They all had a wonderful time. And after some time, the wonderful satsang ended and everybody was going home. And it was only after they went outside of Swami's house that the lady told her husband, Bhima, she said, oh, Bhima, we forgot to ask the one question we had come for, a spiritual name. And he said, that's true. He said, but we'll write him. Let's not disturb him now. He gave us so much time. So they agreed upon that. A few days later, as I said, Swami left his body. And then she told me, 2 days, and she's recorded this, you can find this video, 2 days after his passing, because Swami had wanted his body to be buried at Ananda village, the body and coffin was kept for people to come from all over and pay their respects. And she said she was meditating past midnight in the temple. And she said this, shaft of light, blue light, this wide, and enveloping her heart and head, you may say, came from his body to her. And Swami was in that side of this blue tunnel of light. And he said, Shanti Ma. Now remember, her name was Graziella. And later she would say she went to Swami asking how she could have more peace in her life, and maybe if he could give her a name pertaining to peace, divine peace. And so he calls her, Shanti Ma. She looked at him. Then again he said, Shanti Ma. And she said, Sir, are you talking to me? And he said, I don't see anybody else around. And then he laughed a little bit. And then he said, you didn't guess this would happen, did you? And of course, he shrugged her shoulders. And she took his blessing, and he left her with that blessing. Now, the next day, she was serving in the kitchen, and somebody told her, Graziella, can you pass this pan to me? And she said, sure, but my name is now Shantima. Call me Shantima. And they said, why is that? Who gave you the name? Till then, Swamiji was the only one who was giving names. And she told this Guru Bhai the story, and the person was wide-eyed, naturally. And so Shantima thought that maybe this was too sacred and personal of an experience not to be shared. She excused herself from the kitchen, went back to the temple, to Swami's body. She apologized. And she prayed to him to give her the clarity of what should I do with the name. And she said, instantly Swami reappeared in her vision. And he said, it's your name. I want people to call you Shantima. Please tell them I gave you the name. And he said, now I want you to also tell them one more thing. Tell them that just as I came to you, I can come to each one of them. But they have to call to me. Otherwise, I cannot come. Such, finally he said, is the divine law. So think about that. I can come to each one of them, but they have to call to me. Otherwise, I cannot come. That is like, come to me, Christ. Come to me, Master. Now, we may say, well, that devotee was lucky. Certainly she was. She had a very pure heart, and such experiences are certainly deeply, deeply sacred. How often do they happen? But don't think that this happened only in Italy. I'll give you one more example, two quick ones of masters reappearing right here in Ahmedabad, right here in India. And I was doing outreach over there some years ago, 2016. And I was selling books at our book table, and one gentleman came. And behind me was a big banner of the book Conversations with Yogananda. So he came up to me and he looked at the banner and he says, he's a very great yogi. I said, yep, you're right. And he said, he helps everyone. I said, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And he said, he helped me too. And I said, very good, very good. So I was keeping an eye on the people who were coming and conversing with them. And then he says, do you want to hear how he helped me? I said, sure, yeah. I said, stand here with me and keep telling me. So long story short, first he starts. He said, I was a naughty boy from the beginning of my life. So take heart. I've taken a lot of heart from that. And he said, I was naughty. I was always up to mischief. My parents were tired of me. But then he said, I reformed my ways, except one day. He said, I was still sleeping and my dad came. He threw this folded newspaper on me. He kicked me out of bed and he says, get out of the house. And he said, I was like, what happened? And he said, look at what you've done. What infamy you've brought to the family. And this man looked at the headlines and it was all about him, some fraud, financial fraud he's done, which he had not done. And his dad says, this is it. And long story short, the guy left home. He's out on the road. His cards are blocked. And he's roaming and roaming and roaming on the road. And then suddenly he stops to eat something. And he said, I had 10 rupees in my pocket, cash-wise. So he gets a vada pav. And just as the vada pav is reaching his hand, he says, this yogi comes. He said, I had never seen him before. And that was Master. Master came, Master stopped his hand. He says, this food is not good for you and is not healthy. And By the way, Master once in a while did eat deep fried food, so don't think that he's saying no to the vada pav. But in that moment, Master said, "This food is not good for you." And this boy said, "Sir, this is all the money. I can only afford this food right now." Master said, "Come, I'll feed you." He took him to a Kali temple, fed him. This boy kept bringing up the challenge that he had, which was, unjustified. And Master, he said, whenever he would speak of revenge, Master would look aside and he said, we'll talk tomorrow, finish your food, eat more food. Then Master took him to a place that was a YSS ashram, and he had him stay in a room over there. He got him some food. He made him a khichdi. He gave him a bowl. This man showed me the bowl. I had never seen a bowl of that shape. Very interesting shape it is. And Master fed him. And Master said, we'll talk tomorrow. Well, this guy got up in the morning and he's walking around in the gardens, and the security guard sees him and he says, who are you? What are you doing here? And he says, what do you mean? I'm a guest. I stayed here at night. And this guard is stunned. He says, nobody stays here at night. I was not told anybody is staying. Who allowed you to come in? And he says, don't talk to me like that. I've been staying here since yesterday afternoon. And while they were talking, behind the guard's security cabin was a big picture of Master, that picture on the cover, from the cover of autobiography. And this boy said, oh, this man, he invited me. Looks like he's one of your swamis. And this man told him, he said, he's left his body decades ago. He said, I don't know about that. But I got khichdi from him yesterday. And then his problems that morning, as Master said, we'll solve this problem. The problems simply solved themselves. He was proved innocent in the challenges. In Vrindavan few years ago, there was a lady with nobody to care for her, no money, no family, a huge tumor on her back, and she was lying belly down in the dusty roads. And her tumor was so foul-smelling that people were not even coming close to her. And they would give her some advice, go and get yourself treated. And she said, I heard that advice once again. Somebody said, Mother, why are you lying down over here? Go and get yourself treated. And she said, I have no strength to get up, no money to get treated. And he says, don't worry, go to the people with the blue jackets. And that's, by the way, the jacket our team wears. We have Paramhans Yogananda Public Charitable Trust, they wear blue jackets. And she said, Beta, I don't know these people in the blue jacket. He says, don't worry, I'll call them. And he clapped twice. And people came, a rickshaw came, they took her, she was taken to the hospital, treated, finally brought home. And all this while people were asking her, who called the men in blue, the people in blue? And she was like, he was a yogi in orange clothes, he was a person. And then finally she saw Master's picture. This is a few years ago. And she said, oh, he was the one who clapped the hands. And everyone, people didn't see him, our team didn't see him. But she said, he was there, and he and the team put me on that rickshaw and I was healed. Now, why am I sharing these stories? They are far and wide. They happen here and there, sometimes in a dream, sometimes in a vision. When Swami passed away, another devotee was sharing that she got the news and her first thought was, oh my, you left without saying goodbyes? And they had that kind of a relationship. And she said that because it was still very early, in the US, she went back to sleep and she said, oh, Swami came in her dream and he was like, bye. And he was going back into the stars. That what is this mystery that here we have a body, there's Christ, he's crucified, he's brought the teachings, but then, like Swami said, we often think, and he's depicted, Christ is depicted as somebody who was suffering on the cross. Unfortunately, many accounts, not the accounts of saints, the saints don't describe him as somebody who was suffering because he's a master. He has that mastery over himself, his emotions, his body. But they suffer because they see widespread ignorance. They come with a message, with the hopeful message that look at me, not to look at me, but to look at God. And through His grace, through the teachings, through the techniques, I have overcome the severest of tests. And if I can remain joyful, if I can bring back, I don't know, in Christ's case, people from the dead, if I can bring about healing, if I can be joyful in the midst of suffering, so can you. And as painful and unfortunate as it seems outwardly, they take on sometimes. Because many people have asked, if Christ was really an avatar, as Yogananda said, why did he die so helplessly on the cross? Well, look at what happened 3 days later, how victoriously, who has the power to bring back the atoms of the body, the mind, the same personality, not just 3 days ago, any time. He came to St. Francis of Assisi. So for us, what does resurrection mean? Master said resurrection means transforming yourself, changing, accepting any change, changing yourself for good bodily wise, in the mind, in your emotions, through the techniques of meditation to gain that experience, that faith, that joy, that slowly, bit by bit, tests come. And you may say, well, sometimes we feel when I came on the path, I was much more joyful than now. Now, that may happen, but what also really frankly happens is when you come on the path, it's a little bit like God is showing us a candy. All our past, good soldiers, Kriyanandaji said, are awakened. Good karma that has brought us so far is awakened. We feel that grace. But here's the interesting thing that happens once we come on the path. The true guru, the true spiritual masters do not spare us our next steps, which need not be suffering, but they are greater and greater and greater tests. That's why Swami said Christ's mission, if you see, he said his highest teaching was in resurrection, that don't focus so much on what happened. Look what I have accomplished. And so it is for you and me, that as the days and years and decades roll by, tests will increase. and we should be grateful that God is keeping a watchful eye. That, thank you, you have not forgotten, like a good friend, like a master didn't forget Swamiji's tests. He said, well, Walter, you say you love me. Let's put that to test. What can your love do for me? Swami said another meaning of resurrection is relaxation. Now, yes, when we meditate, we are resurrecting ourselves. We come out of a meditation, there's beauty. Perhaps you see a light, you hear the sound of Om. I was in a corporate workshop, 2-minute meditation. And this person, totally unknown people, they say, oh yeah, I liked the sitar music that you were playing throughout those 2 minutes. I wasn't playing any music. It is the sound of the Manipur chakra that can be heard in deep meditation. So who can say what your resurrection will be, in which meditation, where and how? On the other hand, Swami said, if we can consciously ask Divine Mother that I am relaxing, he defined meditation once as ever deeper relaxation in God. Now, it's easy to relax in meditation, in seclusion. When you're in a cave, eyes are closed, perhaps there's a gate to the cave that is closed, your ears are closed with props or with a mudra. Well, of course, you're going to feel relaxation, and that is the goal. But how do you know how deep is your relaxation? How established are you in that relaxation? Swami said for that, God sends a test after meditation. Now, meditation itself is not a very easy thing also. It is enjoyable, but it takes some time to get used to it. But Swami said, when tests come, can you relax? Like Sister Gyanamata said, your religion is tested in the cold light of day. Can we relax at that time? Can we relax the reactive process? Can we say, thank you, God. Thank you for this cross. Thank you for showing me where I stand. And Swami says, can you relax the heart's feelings? Oh, this is my life. Is it? Where does the gift of life come? It comes from God. Christ did ask, do I really have to go through this crucifixion? Father, if it is thy will, may this cup pass from me. May I be spared of this. But then he prayed for strength, Master said, and God came through him and he showed how to go through even such a difficult test with calmness, compassion. Master said his greatest sermon was given from the cross. Imagine you're nailed on the cross. And that's what Swami said. Imagine that picture is called the last smile. He's going to leave his body. That's a whole different story. I told that few weeks ago during March 7th Master's Mahasamadhi. Master had predicted he would leave. But the degree of inner freedom, as the choir was singing, that in your light, in that joy, we are ever free. If we can stay in that freedom, we have resurrected ourselves. And so, as I was preparing for this satsang, I said, okay, that's why tests keep coming. I was like, my karma is so bad, but it is an expression of God's love when He keeps sending you periodic tests to keep seeing if you are overcoming them or perchance you've rested on the spiritual path. So let's take a moment to, I'll just read Swamiji's letter from Easter 2013. You can sit upright and close your eyes. It's a couple paragraphs. He writes, this is from March 2013, a month before he left his body. Dear ones, I wish I could bless each and every one of you with a happy Easter. Easter is a time symbolizing the eventual resurrection of our little individual selves into the one infinite self. I suggest at this time particularly that you study and meditate on the photograph of Master titled The Last Smile. And consider this amazing fact. He knew that in just a few moments he would be leaving his physical body forever. There is no thought of self in his eyes, of personal regret, of sorrow. Clearly visible in his eyes and in his facial expression is his unconditional love for all mankind, his readiness to return again and again, as he put it, as long as one stray brother sits weeping by the wayside. Such love for ego-centered humanity is not even conceivable. And this was the love Jesus too felt for all humanity. People weep for him and his suffering on the cross. His suffering was only for humanity that blindly rejects God's love and substitutes for it vengefulness and hatred. I have been going through a personal Armageddon. Nothing in this world attracts me anymore. Nothing at all holds any pleasant memories. None of those experiences, whether interpersonal or outward in any way, holds the slightest attraction for me. Must I really live another 5 years, as has been predicted for me? I confess the very idea appalls me. I have done so much in my life to please God. The very hallmark of my nature has been enthusiasm, even though I have been always aware that I could never really accomplish anything significant in this world. Suddenly now, I feel bereft of that enthusiasm. Maybe it's because my heart feels very tired. I want only to merge in God. The only lingering thought is that I would like to bring all of you with me. No, I'm far from tired of you. I want only your freedom in God. But no, your worldly attachments, identities, and desires, I have to confess, mean simply nothing to me, as my own mean nothing to me. No, this doesn't mean I love you less. I love you much more, for I love that part of you which is eternally real. But whether I succeed or fail in my projects is to me meaningless. All the things I once considered pleasurable are to me now displeasing. I want nothing that this world has to offer. People tell me I am famous. That phrase to me also is meaningless. People often marvel at all I have been able to accomplish, all that I have been able to accomplish in this life. To me, it all seems only dust. If we must resurrect our souls, Let it be from the delusion that anything in this cosmic dream holds some worthwhile reality for us. We are children of God. That is our sole reality. Love, Swami. Let's meditate just for a few moments. Seeing ourselves in the coming days and even year, resurrecting ourselves through our daily sadhana, our experience of God, channeling His divine will in our lives, feeling that joy and inner freedom ever more deeply, unconditionally, through the tests of life, through the good periods and challenges, and deepening our faith in the grace of the Masters. Om Shanti Shanti.